Oh, I miss this, but I'm so glad I'm back with a special occasion. Welcome everyone to a first impression video. I believe this is the first time I'm ever doing a first impression video, and it happens to be with one of the newest, fastest phones on the market, which is the OnePlus 15. So let's get started. So I got OnePlus' new flagship, the OnePlus 15, so huge shout out for them for making this possible. You might wonder, what are you getting with this phone? Well, it's a flagship phone with top-end specs. The first thing that I'm noticing is the smaller box, so as you might expect, it doesn't come with the charger. OnePlus is within the last phone manufacturers who removed the charger, at least here in EU. If you're buying this phone from a different region, then you'll still find it in the box, as it's double the size of this one. Getting back to our unboxing, we can find the standard papers, a USB-A to USB-C cable, and the SIM card removal tool. There's also no case included. So now there are like two things that you can do. You can either blame the EU for this, or you can buy this phone from the official OnePlus store, as there are some free gifts that you can get. Sometimes there are cases, sometimes there are chargers, and maybe sometimes there are other products like a watch maybe. Getting back once again, we have the phone now. And would you look at that? The OnePlus 15 had a design change. The round camera bump that started with the OnePlus 11, then went to a OnePlus 12, and the OnePlus 13 has now shifted into a smaller, squarer design. This is not the first device that also had this change, as the OnePlus 13S also experienced this, but that phone was only sold in India and might have been the introduction of this new design language. I liked the big camera bump, but it also had some downsides since the phone wobbles more and also gets in the way while trying to hold it in one hand, as you can see here. Like, you have to be limited on the lower side, but if you want to hold it like grippy, well, sometimes it can get into your way. With new design, I guess you can actually grip it pretty much well. It's not gonna be in your way. There's the volume and power buttons on the right side, and then the action button on the left side. The antenna lines have been shifted. You get one on the left side and three on the right side. Since this is a gaming focused phone, it should help out with the signal when held in landscape mode, and also shouldn't block anything else when using it normally. On the bottom we have the SIM card tray, two antenna lines, two mics, the charging port and the speaker, while on top there are two more antenna lines, another mic and the second speaker. We've got three cameras, a 50 megapixel main camera with OIS, a 50 megapixel ultra wide that doesn't have OIS, and finally a 50 megapixel 3.5 times periscope telephoto that does have OIS. You can also find a laser autofocus and an IR blaster, so you can control a lot of devices, and this time you'll have to hold the phone in a way better position than you had to do before. And I'm convinced you missed a button at least once by doing this. There's also a 32 megapixel selfie camera, and every single one of them is capable of recording in Dolby HDR quality up to 4K 60 FPS, except the main and the telephoto that can go up to Dolby HDR 4K 120 FPS. The default focal length is 24mm, but also has 28 and 35, which would mean 1.1x and 1.4x, and we have 0.6x at 17mm, 2x at 48, 3.5 times at 85, which is now the new periscope camera, and lastly 170mm at 7x. OnePlus has replaced Hasselblad's color calibration with their new engine called Detail Max, and since I had this phone for over a week to try, I can surely say that the image quality is great, no matter if it's day or night. I've tried challenging this phone, but in the end it challenged me. I was impressed by the results, even if the sensors are letting it a bit less light compared to the OnePlus 13 and OnePlus 12. This software improvement kind of fills the gap that kind of left some people a bit disappointed when they saw OnePlus was kind of downgraded in camera in terms of like hardware stuff. But let's all face it, we have phones in our pockets. They have AI, they have a lot of editing, they have people removal. Every single photo is very processed actually, to the point that camera sensors, like their actual sizes, doesn't matter that much anymore. Don't get me wrong, it still counts a lot, because if you have bigger sensors, that means you can get more light, then you can have more details. But at the same time, if the software is getting better, that means you can achieve more detailed pictures with less actual hardware improvements. So if you only care about having bigger sensors, like bigger and bigger sensors, that means you might have to reconsider what you're actually looking for. Because if you want really big sensors, that's why you have DSLRs. They don't process that much, everything is manually calibrated. As I said before, I tried taking a lot of photos and you saw what I was able to get. Also took some side-by-side pictures with the OnePlus 12 and also the OnePlus 9 Pro, and I actually see some improvements even if the sensor is a bit smaller. That's what I've said online, and that's what I've said like everywhere I could. Stop looking at critics. Get a phone in your hands, try it yourself, and then you can draw a conclusion. At first, I was also kind of a hater, even if I'm like a big OnePlus fan and I do a lot of OnePlus reviews here. The fact that you have like downgrades when the flagships should be like an upgrade, like it's an upcoming flagship, it looks bad. I mean, it looks weird, you know? But once you get it in your hands, you can see like those things don't really matter that much. And on the contrary, the phone actually feels better than the OnePlus 13, for example. Alright, that was a hard chapter. Now let's talk about the display. As you've probably already noticed, it's a 6.78-inch, fully flat, LTPO 10-bit screen with 165 Hz, carrying about 450 ppi. While it had its small downgrade in terms of screen resolution from 3168 by 1440 to 2772 with 1272, it also has a bigger screen-to-body ratio. I think this is a flexible display, and what they did is they took the screen, folded the borders inwards, and that resulted in this symmetric, beautiful look with a 90.8% screen-to-body ratio. So with this change, a lot of people were complaining over the screen resolution downgrade, which is, at first is fair, but it's also pointless. Hear me out. At first, you're not going to even notice it. It's still just a bit higher than a mid-range phone, and it's practically impossible to have a high-resolution screen with 165 Hz at this current time. The industry has been stuck with 120 Hz screens for over so many years. Maybe it's time to push this beyond that. Some other gaming phone brands have already succeeded with higher refresh rates, but if you looked close enough, you'd have seen only a 1080p screen everywhere. So the OnePlus 15 has a better resolution overall. You can't compare it with past OnePlus flagships because this phone is fighting within a different category. For now, we're limited by the technology that we currently have, but trust me, it is going to get better. The new OnePlus 15 can reach up to 120 watts of wired charging and the same 50 watts of wireless charging that we're already used to with. Except other brands, for example Samsung, which still has 15 watts of wireless charging. Because, well, smaznag. You might have seen that OnePlus is now selling gallium nitride chargers, both for 80 watts and 120 watts, so the maximum speed that you can achieve with them is 120. For example, this brick that I have here, I just got it, it has up to 120 watts of charging. Their past phones only charge at like 100 watts max, which means they were not using the full potential of these new chargers. Well, now this speed could be theoretically achieved. Your phone will still not charge all the time at 120 watts, that's gonna be like maybe 10 to 15 minutes or even less. But that means it's still going to charge faster. On my case, the charging time was about 1.5 hours, which was way slower than expected, but at the same time I think my phone was not able to charge at that speed yet. The advertised charging time was about 40 minutes, I think, and that might have to be related with the fact that this phone is not running its day 1 patch yet. When charging at above 100 watts, the power icon should turn to purple. And even if it's not charging at 100, maybe it's just charging above like 30 watts or something, the battery icon should turn into blue. But in my case, it was stuck on green, which usually means it's charging slower, making me believe it's going to get that update once the phone actually gets released. Also, let me tell you something about the phenomenal battery capacity. This phone has a 7300 silicon carbon battery. That is actually insane, and it's global. Since I also have a OnePlus Nord C4 Lite here, the battery capacity was different in the Asian market from the EU and the West due to local limitations and rules when it comes to the battery capacity, watt hours, and so much more. we only had 5110 mAh in Europe and 5500 mAh in Asian markets. The thing here is quite complicated actually. So every battery cell that has a capacity which is bigger than 20 watt-hours is considered a dangerous good in shipping via different methods, and that includes shipping from factory to the warehouse and then shipping it from the warehouse to your home. For example, the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, which has a 5000 mAh battery and only has one cell, it reaches about 19.4 watt-hours. OnePlus was watching this, and so they started cooking and they got us a huge battery that has the same capacity no matter where you buy it. And it also keeps the fast charging. So as I was saying about the dangerous goods thing in terms of like transport, you usually need the individual cells that are lower than 20 watt-hours, and the total capacity shouldn't be higher than 100 watt-hours. And you might have crossed that 100 watt-hour policy when you went and flew with a plane. At least that's how stuff works in Europe here. And the OnePlus 15 has about 27 watt-hours, but what they did is that when they split the cell into two parts, they made sure every single cell is lower than 20 watt-hours. They already had two batteries inside, so they can go to like these huge numbers when it comes to wire charging. For example, as I told, 120 watts, 100 watts, even 65 watts on my OnePlus 9 Pro, which is currently recording this. They already had two batteries so that each side can charge at a lower voltage, and basically when you charge with 100 watts, you kind of charge every individual cell with 50 watts or close to that. This is also how Tesla cars work and most full electric cars work. They have a lot of very small cells that charge at like a very high speed. But when you sum it up, like all the cells and all the charging, they're like insane numbers. Theoretically speaking, they could have made a bigger battery in some markets, but for the sake of simplicity and maybe continuity, I believe this is the best way forward. But one thing's for sure, I can't explain how good the battery life is on this beast. Like, it took me 2 days to drain it, and I'm a very heavy user. And no, I'm not referring to my size. The OnePlus 12, which had a very good battery life, can last me a day where others could have lasted 2. That's usually because I have animations to happen as quickly as possible, and I also multitask a lot. This is the first phone that impressed me a lot when it comes to battery endurance. And I mean this. Since the OnePlus 15 is a gaming-focused phone and also has the newest Oxygen OS 16, which is based on Android 16, how about we talk about the new things that were added? Firstly, there are some new improved themes. There are more options to choose from, starting from the custom text, fonts, dynamic wallpapers, and even icons that adapt to your system colors in your white or dark mode. More apps got access to live alert, such as my favorite music streaming app, Tidal, and you also have more options on the lock screen this time. Speaking of it, there's now a full always-on display mode, which lets you set the full wallpaper as AOD, and there are custom widgets that I've been told shouldn't be that long until they add it as well. As you can see, there's some marked space on the clock tile that leaves room for them, and they should appear right over here. Oh, and let's not forget, this phone has an under-display ultrasonic fingerprint scanner, which I haven't tested yet if it also works with a third-party screen protector, but I'll let you know in the comments, since I kinda ordered a 2-pack from AliExpress, so I got like the cheapest possible combination, so keep an eye on that. Time to get the big guns, and guess what? I already have them. I mean, this phone has them. This new OnePlus 15 has a tri-chip configuration, which they actually had a launch event last week in Singapore, where I got the chance to view some behind the scenes things. I'll also recommend you to drop a sub so you can watch the vlogs when it eventually comes out. First, we have the OP Gaming Core, which has a full banner that appears when you enter a game. This new CPU scheduler can detect when a game has been started and will focus most of the resources on that game, making it a priority. This was able to be done by modifying the kernel's code by about 25,000 lines or so, I've been told. I've noticed smoother performance overall, even in games like Stutter Night, which was not even to play at 60 FPS without drops on my OnePlus 12, but running with not a single frame drop. Can you believe this? At 90 FPS on the OnePlus 15. It's funny how OnePlus had to do Epic Games' job since they don't care about optimizing their game. There's even a 120 FPS option in the settings, but that thing is good as it's useless. If a crappy game can run so well on this phone, then something's definitely changed. In fact, this is just the beginning. Next up, the OP Gaming Tri-Chip. The OnePlus 15 has a new network chip that makes sure there's no place in the entire house that makes gameplay unstable. Pair that with the new antenna lines arrangement and you get a good combo. There's a new more precise gyroscope, a touch sensitivity chip that does not fail, and the cherry on top is the newest, fastest chipset provided by Qualcomm, the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5. Lastly, the OP FPS Max. OnePlus has worked closely with specific developers to make their games work at 165 FPS. Right now, Supercell games work well at 165 FPS, such as Clash of Clans and Brawl Stars. There's also Call of Duty Mobile that had that option within the settings, but for some reason I was only getting 120 FPS at the time I'm recording this. Maybe it's gonna get fixed, I think it's gonna be fixed. And there are some more games coming soon, like Mobile Legends Bang Bang, PUBG Mobile and BGMI. And that's pretty much it for now. At first I tried making a first impression video, which I was only supposed to talk about design and specs, but I decided to go with the overall first impression with the phone before you, as a consumer, you're actually buying it. I believe this is a solid device. It should last you a long time from now. The best part is that some features, for example the Detail Max engine, is just software processing, which means it will get better over time, and a lot of optimizing updates will be released throughout this device's lifespan. Let me know what you think about the new OnePlus 15 in the comment section down below. My name is Razvarux, and I'll catch you in the next one.